Hi, everybody. How are you doing today? This is the first CertiCraft where we have an in-person chat. So bear with us if anything doesn't work how we expect it to. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sami. I'm the CEO of CertiCraft. We're on a mission to help craft cannabis producers transition into and thrive in the new regulated market. And our flagship product is a compliance platform to make it really easy to stay on top of all the regulations and reporting requirements. And the CertiCraft is a bi-weekly podcast where we bring in really awesome and well-respected people in the cannabis industry and just have a chat about what's going well, what's not going well, and what can be improved in the world of legal craft cannabis. And today, I'm really excited to have Tim here from Sweetgrass Cannabis, which is one of the best brands, in my opinion, in the world of legal craft cannabis. And I'll turn it over to you, Tim. Do you want to maybe say a thing or two about who you are?
For sure. Timothy Deighton. I'm a co-founder of Sweetgrass Cannabis out of Weimar, British Columbia. I ended up in the Kootenays based on aviation. Came for aviation and snowboarding, and then I ended up staying in the Kootenays because of family, community, and cannabis. So that's how I ended up here. And then, so how it led into Sweetgrass was my neighbor, Jimmy. He's my co-founder, my business partner. He ends up being my neighbor as well. And then he's like a organic food farmer and organic cannabis farmer. And I was designing grow facilities for ACPR. And it was just a natural fit for the two of us to collaborate and create Sweetgrass Cannabis.
Cool. And what's your experience been like in your first year? Is it over a year now that you guys have had your license?
Yeah, it's over a year. I think it was May of 2020.
Okay.
And it's been a challenge for sure. It's trials and tribulations. Going through the motions, trying to deal with Health Canada, deal with sales is one of the bigger parts of it. What we didn't realize. Like when you get your license, you all of a sudden think like, oh, we've made it, but that's just the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, before we get too deep into it, can you guys out there let us know? Can you hear us okay? This is our first time using this kind of setup, and I just want to make sure that everybody can hear us clearly. Okay, sweet. Thanks, Earl and Linda. And one thing I forgot to mention is we have a chat where you guys can say hi and just say whatever you want. And if you have any questions for Tim, we have a dedicated questions tab. And at the end of this session, we'll be going through all the questions in order. You can upvote the ones that you like, and whatever's got the most upvotes, we'll go through them in that order. So please go ask questions there if anything comes up in the middle of the chat. Thank you, and sorry to break that.
No problem. But also, I just want to say thank you, Sami and CertiCraft. Like, you guys are doing so much for the community. It's a great platform that you're offering. It makes like craft cannabis like it's such a challenge, and what you guys are doing are definitely helping the community of craft for sure.
Thanks, dude. I'm glad you guys chose to use our system, and that experience is going well so far.
Yeah, and we switched to your system because the one we were using was very challenging, and it just wasn't meeting our needs. And it was just like what you're doing, and the personal care that you give us is next to none. So.
Awesome, man. Thank you. We try. Cool. So like I said, we try to focus on three things in these talks: what's going well in the legal craft cannabis world, what's not going well, and what can be improved. And I know because you and I have talked in the past about, kind of some of the struggles you've had around your sales amendment and a few other things. You've got a lot to say about what's not going well. So let's start with what is going well. Is there
like just recently is what I've realized is meeting some people in the government who like actually really care, and they want this to work, and they want to be working with us, and just realize that their hands are quite tied, and it's nice to see that they are wanting change, because like they were just dropped this on their laps, and they're like, make it work. So like I feel for them. Obviously we do have our struggles and everything, but meeting people lately in the government that really want to see us succeed, and that's a big positive thing for sure, is what I'm noticing. And then there's the obvious is like the positive is like job creation, community, economic development, as far as yeah, it's a great thing for rural BC to be having these micros built to support the communities.
Yeah. Cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I'd have to concur with you. Like I've been really pleasantly surprised with my experience with most people I've talked to in government over the past year or so. Like that's kind of when I really started getting involved with both the provincial and federal level bureaucracy. And yeah, it's been a really, especially with BC, I found a really great breath of fresh air of people really being down to listen and wanting to improve things. And I hope for our collective sake that they don't get bogged down by red tape and can actually listen and create. And because I feel too, they definitely want things to be a lot better for small scale producers.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, the other thing as well is like, I just want to touch in on one of the positive things is how smoothly it's going. And it's all because of the team. And what I just want to shout out to our team, like they're amazing from the bottom to the top. Like everyone makes this work. And without them, Sweetgrass is nothing. So
shout out Sweetgrass. You got a good boss here who appreciates your work. I know you were telling me yesterday about how much you love Brandon and how you could I cannot give him enough praise on what he does.
Yeah, like he is definitely the captain of our ship. And yeah, I just can't say enough of like having a quality QA is so important. I can't stress it enough. And just feeling blessed that all the people, like I just gotta say it, like they're my friends too. So it's a great community vibe, and that definitely helps. Small scale production go smoothly.
So maybe for those of us in the audience maybe aren't familiar with Sweetgrass, can you tell us a bit about what Sweetgrass actually is? What you guys are trying to do?
We're an organic flower. We just do flower only right now. So craft flower, we have our flagship strain, or the purists will kill me calling it strains, but for many people,
it's a cultivar, sir.
Tyson, I see you out there. You're gonna be pulling your hair out and me saying that. But so yeah, that's what I'm finding a challenge is right now with only being able to pretty much produce 2 cultivars for sale.
And is this a restriction from the provincial distribution boards not being down to carry more SKUs, or what?
Well, it's just for how much we can produce and like how much we have to commit to we don't have a sales license, so right now we're doing B2B. So it's how much they have to commit to the different boards. So they need a certain amount, and this in a micro platform, you just don't have enough canopy to be growing a whole bunch of different cultivars right now. But with direct sales, that definitely is going to be able to change, and it's going to be able to open it up and allow not only just our employees, like they're going to get sick of just the 2, so it's going to be more exciting for them, but it's also going to allow more specific to people's needs, and it's going to be a great thing when that rolls out.
And so you guys have microcultivation and microprocessing, and it's more than one physical facility, correct?
Yeah, we have two production facilities, and we have 2 processing licenses, and we're actually submitting our 2nd sales amendment as well. So each building will have a federal sales amendment. So
each building is both cultivating and processing. Is that the idea?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the thing going forward is packaging. We're really excited to be getting into BC. Right now we're selling to a company on the East Coast and having great success. They're going to start doing some co-branding, co-marketing. Supposedly they're saying we're one of the biggest sellers in Nova Scotia, which is great.
Cool.
It's a test to the team and what they're doing and what they're producing. It's live soil. Like I said, it's organic, which is a huge thing and a huge belief for us is like, I think the industry is going to need to go that direction as well. Like I really believe that the organic is the future.
Yeah,
for sure. And as people get educated more and more, they're going to realize that it's really important what they put in their bodies.
So have you come across any? You don't have your sales amendment yet, so I assume you're not doing. Are you guys doing your own packaging yet, or is that still?
No, we're just about to start. Yeah.
Do you foresee there being, because I know a challenge that I've heard a lot from craft producers that are doing their own packaging is the packaging restrictions and not being able to advertise like organic farming, living soil, those kinds of things. Is that something that you're seeing is going to be an issue for you guys? Or
well, Actually, that's changing.
It is changing.
Yeah, what they're allowing on the back of the packaging is actually quite substantial.
Really?
It's pretty exciting. If you look at a couple, shelters doing this, and if you check it out, they're doing who's grown, when it was grown, when it was harvested, which is really important as well. It's not just when it's packaged.
Yeah.
It gives the terp profiles. There's a whole bunch of information you're allowed to actually put on the back. So that's kind of going to open up a lot of opportunities for not necessarily like marketing, but just education.
Yeah. So could you potentially say that this was grown organically in living soil? Is that?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. Oh, that's so different from what it used to be.
So but the challenge is if you're in a jar or a can, it's such a small space. So I've noticed it on the packages, like more of the Mylar packages.
Okay, yeah.
So on the back, the sticker, they can put all the information there.
Cool. That's another thing that's going well in the industry. They
are changing. Like they're not allowing us for very much marketing opportunity, but the more education that they're allowing us to put out there, it's just going to help the cannabis industry.
Totally. Mm-hmm. So what are some things that have not really gone well that you think are really problematic in the industry today?
Well, problematic in the industry is Health Canada. It's dealing with them. It's the clarity.
Is it the clarity?
The clarity of like when we have questions and we're trying to follow the rules and get answers, and when you call them, you just have some young kid answering and reading the regs, and it's like to your own discretion.
We already read that. We're going to ask you about that. So why are you repeating it back to us?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that is one of the main issues that our team is having, is not having clear direction for all the different issues that come up, even day to day, and especially with this sales amendment that we've been trying. It's been a huge process, and we're getting quite frustrated with Health Canada because they're changing policy all the time, but they're not guiding you on what is needed for them as they change, and we're getting lost in the shuffle.
Can you speak more to? Can you maybe give us a summary of your experience trying to get the sales amendment? And just I'll take a pause here for a moment, just in case some people out there aren't familiar with the licensing for processors. So I'm sure most of you are aware that if you want to package cannabis for retail use for consumers, you have to have a processing license in order to make that happen. What you might not know is once you have your processing license, you can't actually sell it right away. You have to go through some steps to get what is called the sales amendment. Part of that is growing 2 batches fully to spec, packaging them, and proving to Health Canada basically that you can create quality retail cannabis that meets the requirements. And there's a few other things as well. And I see Earl is typing, so maybe he'll be correcting me. Maybe I misspoke there. And Earl says it's about the packaging itself, not necessarily growing it. So thanks for correcting me there.
Well, it's actually about the growing it as well. It's all your testing, your test results. It's the whole process actually is what they're giving you the sales amendment for.
So can you tell us about what your experience has been trying to get that sales amendment? And because I know it's been a nightmare.
Yeah, first and foremost, it's really hard for a small company like ourselves. Like we have to put aside $20,000-$25,000 worth of product that's been sitting there for 10 months. We're gonna have to destroy it. So it's just the initial cost you're having to put up just to apply for this federal sales.
So you have to the stuff that goes through those 2 trial batches, it has to be destroyed.
No, it does not. But we wouldn't goodwillingly put out a product that's 10 months old.
Got it.
So just as far as a company, that's our belief system. If it's not fresh and the best, that we're not going to put it out there. Yeah. So I'm not sure if all companies have that belief system, but so the experience was we did our application and it was just kind of radio silence. Jimmy, my partner there, he was kind of spearheading it, and he was sending emails every 2 weeks and nothing. And then all of a sudden they give us a request for more information. They're like, you have 10 days to reply. And it's after months of
just trying to get,
and it's just not even possible to get what they want within 10 days. And it's just those kinds of things that have been really, really challenging. And now we're stuck in this legislative policy change. So we're like, well, what do you need from us? And they can't even guide us because they're changing policy as our application is sitting there.
even though it's been there for 10 months.
Yeah, totally.
Is there anything you can speak of related to the challenges in those 10 months, or is it all just like a bunch of like little things?
It's so many little things. It's like, it's like based on the companies that applied for their sales amendments, like say 2 years ago or year and a half ago, they had a certain set of regulations that they had to follow, and it was pretty easy and to slide in there and everything. And now they've changed it and made it way harder. So with all these policy changes on top of that, it's a nightmare. Yeah. So for us, being a year, like the cost that we're that we're losing monthly, not able to, like, we have approved SKUs almost with the BC government, but we're unable to fill them. So it's like, it's really, really challenging, and it's frustrating as well. So yeah. But as far as what I kind of wanted to touch on in this podcast was the belief that I think the future for micros is the sales amendments for everyone. I can't stress enough how important I believe that is. And for the reason is, say you have this centralized processor and they're going to be doing your sales. I believe once direct sales roll out, there's going to be bottlenecks. And it's just like, who's going to have their product sold first? What's the wait time? And they're going to have their own learning curves. So I just really want to stress that you kind of can't have your eggs all in one basket, and you need to have the opportunity and the choice to do your own sales. And I think it's very, very important for companies to survive.
But then the devil's advocate piece would be that in order to get a sales amendment, you first need a processing license. And in order to get a processing license, you need a QAP that meets very particular, narrow definitions of what Health Canada accepts, which there's a lot of people who very much disagree with that. And I think episode 2, we had Tamara Follet really get into that, and there's not enough of those QAPs available in Canada that have those skill sets to go around for everybody. And so if every single micro is now needing to have a QAP of that particular caliber with the budget that is going to be increasing by, I think that's going to be really challenging for a lot of people. I think that the solution in that regard is that there's a new packaging license introduced, or like a new type of processing license that's a lot simpler, where you don't need a really, a master's degree level person in the world of, I don't know, pathology to be your QAP, because that's not necessary for just putting flour in a package.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think collaboration, like especially like rural communities like the Kootenays and say the Okanagan and all those places, if everyone just collaborates in small amounts and just shares a QAP, I think it'd just be a more successful product.
Yeah. But in some ways, that's kind of like, you and I are both familiar with Antidote, which is like a local processor that's going live soon, that's focused on helping rural farmers get their product to market by being the processor for them. In some ways, that's kind of what they're doing, but instead of it being a QAP that's shared in all these different companies, they're just dealing with that themselves. And the ownership structure, like 3 of the owners are licensed farmers that are cultivators in this area. So like, what's your feeling on a model like that?
Well, I think if they take on too many, that's when it's going to be problematic.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is like, a farmer is going to give their product and they need to get paid. And where are they in the chain of sales as well? Yeah. What if one farmer is not as the quality is not as good as another company? Yeah. So who's sells first? I think that's where it's going to get tricky, and it's going to create a lot of challenges for these companies moving forward.
So to paraphrase and summarize my understanding of your perspective, you think it's important for any cultivator, any micro cultivator, to get a processing license and a sales amendment so that they have independence and the ability to sell directly into the recreation
as many as possible. Like, obviously not everyone is going to have that skill set, and there's going to be some people that just want to grow, and then they just want to work with one processor, and that is going to be a system that's going to work. But I just think as more and more micros are coming online, which they are, like a lot of people have just been waiting to see how it's all rolling out, and it is getting easier. Like the licensing process is getting quite a bit easier than when we first applied.
Yeah.
Like our second license was, a couple months compared to, a year and a half on the first one almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so I think if you can do it, you should do it. It's just going to give yourself so much more opportunity in the market, like nationally and British Columbia.
Yeah. What else is there that is something that you feel is not so great in the world of legal craft cannabis today?
Not so great. I don't know. Like it's, let me think. So, well, there's like the taxes, like Dan Sutton, what he was saying, like the excise is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then also with the government's BCLD, they're 15%. Now that they've gone to the direct sales platform, they're still going to be charging the middleman fee of 15%, which I think is ridiculous because we have to now hire our own sales team.
Yeah.
So it's another cost incurred on the micros who are doing our own selling. I just think mainly it's just the clarity of working with the government and just being able to, any questions come up and quick responses. And I think that's mainly the biggest negative for sure.
Yeah, and it's a struggle, right? Because it's like you depend on these government agencies in order to be able to do anything. Like they definitely hold a lot of power in these relationships. And when a government agency that you're relying on that holds your license can't actually get back to you in a timely manner, and when they do eventually get back to you 2 weeks later, it's not helpful at all. Like we've definitely had that experience a lot with CertiCraft with Health Canada, especially where we're building a system that generates the records, generates the reports that Health Canada requires, and sometimes there's a lack of clarity in the regulations in an aspect of what they're asking for in their guides. And so we'll reach out to them. We're like, hey, this is what you guys say. We don't know how to interpret that. We could see it either being this, or this. How would you like us to proceed? And then, won't hear anything for a week or two. We'll reach back out another 2 weeks later. And then we'll get a response where somebody just copied and pasted something from the document we sent them. It's like, we literally, I quoted that thing asking you what you meant by it. Why are you copying and pasting the literal thing? It's just, this is useless.
For sure. Well, actually, I was just seeing in my notes too, like a major thing, a disappointment is the cost. The cost in terms of what? Of starting your micro. I just don't think it's attainable for so many people, and it's really disappointing that they're like with the wealth of the pool here in the Kootenays, how many people should be doing micros and they're just not because like they can't get into it because of the cost. Yeah. And trying to figure out how we can bring that down, I think that is what the Kootenays needs moving forward as the legacy slowly goes away. Is bringing people online is going to be a priority, and trying to figure out how to do it in a cost efficient way for these people, I think is really important in the industry right now. And is this a cost that you see this being problematic specifically for indoor growers, or is it like across the board? No, I would definitely say the indoor cultivators for sure. Okay. It's the cost of it. Well, because like a greenhouse costs pretty much the same as an indoor facility anyways, I think. Like not pretty close actually. By the time you get your HVAC, all your dehums and your... I mean, it depends because you can have a greenhouse that doesn't necessarily have... Or do you need HVACs if you have a greenhouse in the... I haven't really seen any that are able to pass microbials and not deal with all the issues of mold, temperatures, and all that without a proper HVAC system. Okay. I'm sure there's some out there, but I have not seen one. What's being said? Oh, losing a bit of audio. Okay. Sorry. Thanks. We got a notification from Nick in the moderator chat to get closer here. So thanks for the update, Nick. Could you guys hear the last bit about the HVACs and can you guys hear us okay? Want to pause for a moment before. Okay. Thank you guys for saying it. It works. Okay. That's 3 confirmations that it's sounding good. And maybe Devin's going to confirm here the same thing. And
Everybody's typing. Hi, everybody. It's so great to have actual engagement here. Earl Oliver also says that light depth is also important for greenhouses. I assume is what you're talking about there, Earl.
What's he asking? Sorry.
Oh, he's not asking something. He's just saying that light deprivation is also important for greenhouses.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
definitely. And you're limited to 6 months of production compared to
indoor facility.
Yeah.
So what are some of the costs with an indoor facility that are maybe something that you wouldn't necessarily expect if you haven't gone through the process?
Well, first off is this is something that has been changing, but right off the get-go was everyone was a consultant, and they were charging astronomical fees for trying to help you do it. And slowly they're being weeded out, and it's getting better. So that was like a cost that you weren't really expecting right off the bat how much they're actually charging. But mainly, I think the HVAC system is what I was most surprised with, is the cost of just the initial install of an HVAC was, it was, $300,000 for a micro if you're maximizing canopy space.
Yeah.
For a proper HVAC. So that was kind of not expected, definitely.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I know nothing about like the individual components of what goes into having a GPP level indoor micro facility in the world of legal cannabis here.
Mm-hmm.
I do know from the indoor growers that we work with, because I'd say about half our customers are indoor, there's definitely the ballpark range seems to be anywhere from like 500 to like $1.5 million seems to be kind of the average cost. And we've had some people who've done it above that. Some people who've like already had a facility that needed like minor retrofitting who went below that.
Yeah.
But that does seem to be the spread. And the people who are doing outdoor, of course, it's way less.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and then your cost, like, it's not that it wasn't unexpected, but your team, like, you have to pay to have the best people, and then to keep them as well.
Yeah.
But I think that's the most important thing to the success of your business, is a team that is going to be there for the long haul, and learning with you and growing with you. Yeah.
So Tim, you and I are both part of the Kootenay Cannabis Economic Development Council here, which for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's an organization that was, I think there's about roughly 20 members who are part of it, who are either part of cannabis production companies like Tim, or service companies like CertiCraft, or they are involved with local government. And there's been an attempt to get like people that represent many different facets of the local cannabis industry. And it's essentially an advocacy organization that's trying to shift things so that the local cannabis industry can thrive and transition and succeed, and just create a better environment where, kind of what Tim was alluding to, there's a lot of people sitting on the edges waiting to see what happens before they commit, so that shifts to the point where people are ready to actually transition. So I'm curious if you can speak to like why you chose to join that as an inaugural member, and what your experience has been like on the more advocacy side.
Well, like why we did is we just want to give back, because we know how hard it is, and we're really blessed, like, again, with our team, that we were able to do it. And just giving back to the people and just helping everyone in the community, because that is the future. Like, the legacy isn't going to be around forever, and I think we really need to be helping these people in the community transition, and it's really important. And as many things that pretty much my position in the co-op there is, like, if people want to come do tours, or they have any questions about the build and the process, and it's just like, that's kind of the position I've taken. We're an open book for at Sweetgrass, and it's really important to us to give back to the community with any kind of knowledge that we've gained from this whole process.
And what's your experience been like so far, starting to have kind of relationships with government officials? I know you mentioned at the beginning that you were really pleasantly surprised by the receptiveness of government. What's that journey been like? I think it's been about.
It's so hard to change anything. It really, really is. And like you've seen it we pretty much have to just choose one thing and really focus on that and try and get a win with something. That I didn't realize how challenging it is to have policy changed is the biggest hurdle I've seen dealing with the co-op.
Yeah. And is there any of the various things that you mentioned earlier as things that are problematic, is there any one thing that you think is the most important thing to change?
The most important thing. Well, right now, I would say is the streamlining this sales amendment for people, because even if direct sales rolls out, if people don't have their sales amendment, there's nothing they're going to be able to do. Like I think that is going to be the single most important thing is the federal government working with the provincial government in BC. I'm talking about BC because the rest of Canada obviously is not doing it, but working together to streamline that process. So when it does roll out, it's not a disaster. And right now it's kind of shaping up to be that. And I feel it's just going to be a huge bottleneck. And like they're open to hearing what we have to say, but how they roll it out and how it works. And like you were saying, they should be doing trials right now to see if it's successful. And they're not doing that. And that's quite frustrating.
So just in case this got missed here, or you're not following what we're talking about the direct delivery program that the BCLDB is in charge of. And one thing that a few of us in what is it called? The Provincial Policy Subcommittee of the CEDC, so formal sounding, are really keen on seeing is having the BCLDB actually roll out a pilot project of the direct delivery program to make sure that it actually works as advertised. I mean, the whole point and the whole reason that the BCLDB decided to roll out direct delivery was because they recognized that there were a bottleneck. There were a lot of challenges around what they were doing as people who do not have a background in cannabis and now making subjective decisions about what to carry, what not to carry. And we're just really slowing down the ability for craft cannabis to get into local retail stores that wanted their product. Like, I think it's ridiculous that Tim and the Sweetgrass facility are like 20-30 minutes away from Nelson, and none of the stores in Nelson have their product, even though they all want their product. That's pretty ludicrous, and that's the situation we're in right now, and that a lot of different craft cannabis producers are struggling with. And so this program is meant to rectify that, to allow people to retailers to purchase stuff directly from producers that they're into. It would be done through a central registry where the BCLDB would still have you register a SKU, and it will be they say it's going to be a much simpler and quicker process because they're not making subjective decisions on what to carry. They're just making objective ones based off of whether it's legal or not, and you meet all the reporting and record requirements around that, and that you've paid all your taxes and so on and so forth.
It sounds like it's going to be actually, I was speaking with Sarah Cunningham, who's a lovely lady who's really doing a lot to try and help craft cannabis and micros. And she's part of the Cannabis Secretariat's office, for those of you who aren't familiar with that name. Yes. And she's saying that it's going to be kind of a self-monitoring. Like you're just going to be internally keeping track of what's going and coming, and then if there's an audit, then you present it. So they're not so it sounds like it's actually going to be kind of self-regulated. So
they've changed it then from what they initially announced a few months ago.
It sounds that way, that's how it's might be rolling out, which would be way better for sure. Yeah.
And what Tim was alluding to earlier about this pilot, so what the BCLDB has said repeatedly is that, you know, to roll this out for a small group of people versus everybody is no difference. There's no difference on our end. So we're not going to do a pilot because it's just not any different. And what we kind of realized in our discussion with Sarah Cunningham from the Cannabis Secretariat's office a week ago is that they're talking about on a technical level, like in terms of the software, in terms of being able to facilitate the SKUs and the distribution that's necessary. In that sense, it's no different whether it's just a small group of people or a large group of people. And that was kind of, for me personally, an aha moment of, oh, that's the disconnect. We're not talking about technically can you do it. We're talking about all these assumptions you're making in the policies that you're putting together. are those going to work? Is the way that just all the different things that go into creating a new program of the sort. There's a lot of assumptions that are being made, and the BCLDB, their background is the world of alcohol, where I think there's just six main distributors that sell to the BCLDB that kind of conglomerate all of the other wine and liquor and beer production, and that's kind of what they're used to in the world of alcohol. And in cannabis, there's hundreds of sellers, and that's growing every single month. And so, so that's to me my concern, and I think you probably share that concern as well. Of you're entering a whole new world you're not used to. Why aren't you trialing your assumptions and making sure that you are getting it right? And for me personally, that's something I'm pushing hard on over the next year. Just like, let's have a trial. Let's have a trial. Let's have a trial.
Yeah, and I really think everyone should be prepared that it's not going to be next summer. In reality, I think it will probably be closer to the end of the year, is what I've seen and how it's rolling out and what's happening. So just as far as Micro is preparing for that, and one thing I've been pushing for as well is like, we need like if they can give us a date like 3-4 months ahead, it's really important, because then we're going to be growing certain cultivars, we're going to be preparing like different amounts, and then we're going to have to be approaching all the dispensaries, and it's just really important. So when it does roll out, it's not like, okay, now we start, and then it's going to be another year before we actually can make it successful in getting into the stores there. So
yeah, and what I think would be very sad is if, let's say, they do give you, hey, 4 months from now it's going to roll out, and then you start growing maybe like 6 batches of different cultivars now, because hey, we can do small scale batches that we sell directly to stores. We don't have to like meet these larger bulk requirements, and then just certain assumptions they've made around the program just make it so that it's really not viable in some kind of way that's unforeseen. I don't know what it could be, but there's just a lot of potential for error when it's an entirely new program and an entirely new industry with a government organization that has no history with this industry. And yeah, so that's why I think it's necessary to have a trial, because if they screw it up in some kind of way, it's all the cultivators that get hurt. Like that's who gets hurt. Not the retailers. Ultimately, they buy stuff and they sell it at a markup. They're doing just fine. The government's doing just fine. They have the 15% tax no matter what. It's the people who actually produce the cannabis that get hurt. And if you've shifted your business model in preparation for this thing and it doesn't quite work, like that would be just so sad to me.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm a little worried for how it's all going to roll out for sure. Yeah. So it's always like, we're pretty lucky to have a little backup with the B2B sales. I think for companies moving forward, just have a backup plan for sure.
Yeah. What's your experience been like with the BCLDB? Because you have mentioned before to me in person and in this conversation that BC is really interested in carrying Sweetgrass, but the sales amendment has gone the way of that.
Yeah, actually they're great. They really are pushing for craft. They're pushing for BC product. Yeah, they really want it, and they've been responsive. I'm personally, that's not my role. So that's someone else in the company has been working with them, and all their feedback is that they've been quite lovely to deal with.
Awesome.
And it is changing, and they were going through the trials and tribulations as well, but they're kind of figuring it out now. And it seems like it's getting better. It's just, that's all you can ask for, is like the trajectory is constantly getting better. That's all you can ask for.
Yeah, and given that the governments, especially the provincial ones, were given this file just a few months before they had to have policies in place, and that they don't have background in it at that point in time, like, we can't expect that they would have good policies from the get-go.
No.
So and that took time for me to learn personally that was the reality for that. It was actually, we brought BCLDB, the LCRB, and the Cannabis Secretariat's office as guests for an earlier episode, and it was in that they kind of helped us understand this is our reality. We usually take 2 to 3 years to like really do a good consultation and then develop policies from that. We just had months for this file. It came at the very end of the term of Trudeau's first term, I think, and there was
and then them not even knowing anything about cannabis on top of it. So that is another positive what's going on in the cannabis industry now, is education. And I really think that should be like our focal point, instead of like this kind of marketing in your face with stuff that's packages or, pictures of buds and everything. I think we need to kind of step back and just really start educating the consumers and what they want, right? Like their needs, and so then they can navigate the whole millions of different products on the shelves and really get to the base of what's best for them.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing I really appreciate about the legal world is that now you can really start to share a lot more information. Like I can tell you for myself, like THC makes me really paranoid, but CBD is really helpful for me for different. I've had some serious injuries that CBD has been like a big part of recovery for that. And before legalization, I'd go into the dispensary and I bought this package of CBD pills, and like 4 of them were fantastic. And then the 5th one I took on my way to work, and like halfway to work, I realized I was really, really high and starting to get paranoid. And I was like, the fuck is this? Yeah. And that was kind of when and this is the very beginning of what we were doing. That was kind of when I realized like, oh, there's real value in shifting to world legality where everything's tested. And you have to prove that, no, if you're selling a CBD product, there actually is no THC in there. So that you don't get screwed like that. If you're somebody who really can't work well in your particular brain chemistry with
and it would just turn you off completely from the medicine, and like that is a belief of Sweetgrass, is that it is a medicine, and whatever medicine it is for the individual, it could be like the medicine of laughter, it could be the medicine of creativity, and then the medicine of the body and the mind. And it's just teaching the people that, and not scaring them off of that you can have the cannabis for whatever your specific needs are. I think it's really important not to scare people off.
And I've been a little disappointed with the rollout of retail stores I can only speak to BC because that's where I have exposure to, but I think the rest of Canada does it similarly, where there's not really any focus on medical in the brick and mortar spaces. It's like cannabis was legalized largely because of its medical properties and the huge amount of healing that it does. And it just seems that a lot of the retail stores, it's all about just the highest THC possible.
It could be changing. It could be changing. Like for actual medical dispensaries, legal coming back, actually.
Oh, you think so?
Yes, I think there's one in actually Ottawa that has kind of popped up, and they're kind of skirting like legalities, I guess, but so far so good. And as far as a medical patient, you can go in and actually purchase like cannabis from licensed producers and micros and stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's changing. It's coming.
And is there more that you've heard through the grapevine around like policies or regulations around that, or
I think they're not really knowing how to deal with it, because we'll see. It's super in the infant stages, but I was talking to someone out east there, and it could be coming slowly west too, and a few of them popping up. So we'll just see if they survive and what happens.
I think that's great, and I'm glad to hear that. But I also think that just the recreational retail stores, that there should be the possibility to have cannabis that's not just meant for like getting as high as you can. And I do think that direct delivery will change that, because a big issue is that the provincial distribution boards don't want to buy things that aren't don't meet a certain very narrow set of parameters that they have in mind. So I think, if there's an outdoor grower, let's say in this area, that's growing 14% THC with like 5% CBG and CBD and like a whole bunch of terpenes, there's a lot of interest in that kind of cannabis out here, but you just can't find it in a retail store. And I think that, or I hope rather, because I don't really know what the market demands. Maybe it is all just comes down to consumers all wanting high THC and nothing else. But
the patients are ordering online still right now, and it is because they do get it at a cheaper price, which they should. And then insurance companies slowly are I think there's 3 or 4 insurance companies that are now covering it. I know the film industry, their union, they're starting to cover it. So I think it's kind of starting to ramp up a little bit more again, and the medical will come back.
That's an interesting angle I hadn't considered. So health insurance covering medical cannabis will lead to a lot more demand for medical cannabis, because now people could have much more affordable.
They're covered 80%, I think, through some of these providers.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that blows my mind that we're at a point where a big health insurance company rather,
Mm-hmm.
would cover cannabis for a medical patient.
That's what I'm saying. It's really changing, and I think that model will slowly come back. Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see we're at 11:16 here, which is just about the end of the main chat part. For those of you who are in the audience, if you didn't notice, we have a question section. If you have any questions for Tim, go ask them there. I'll go see right now what questions we have there. We have one question so far. So maybe I'll chat with Tim for a bit first, let you guys ask any more questions that you have. And then we'll go back there in about 5 minutes and go through questions. I did see Linda has something related to insurance that she said here. I'm just going to read it out loud so that people in the video who watch this on YouTube later can actually hear this. So on the insurance front, they are not interested at this point to insure farm gate, which will be another hurdle. In fact, the retail stores with direct delivery have very limited coverages. Insurance companies are not interested in this side of things. They have no appetite at this time. What kind of insurance are you talking about here, Linda? Is this like product insurance? Like I'll let you speak to that, but different than the insurance we were just talking about, of course, because we're talking about health insurance. Tim, are there any final thoughts you want to share with our audience before we shift into more engagement with the audience?
No, I really encourage people who are on the fence to start moving towards the transition. I really worry for the legacy and as it changes in our especially in our community and rural communities, because you're already seeing it. It's really affecting the economy. It's affecting people's lifestyles and all of that. So I think collaborating with the community and getting together with your neighbors and say, okay, we can do this, and then creating jobs for yourselves and then all the people around you, I think is the future of where we live.
Cool. Well, there you have it. And Linda says direct delivery and farm gate from micros, especially ones that are on their personal property. Got it. Okay, yeah. So this is kind of like the stuff we were talking about in the CertiCraft we did with you, Linda. If anybody's curious about insurance, we did one with Linda and her husband. Linda is a current insurance broker, and her husband, Scott Wilkins, is a past insurance broker who is now running his own licensed production facility. And yeah, we had a great chat with them to learn all about the ins and outs of insurance and what they're talking about. Cholo, ask your question in the questions section. I'm going to switch there and start going through questions there. All right, first question's from Earl Oliver. We'll order this by upvotes. Which organic certifying body did Sweetgrass go to or go with and why?
We went with FAVOPA. It's the Fraser Valley Organic Producers Association. There's also PAX is another one that's local. They do all the orchards and they're pretty established. We went with FAVOPA just based on when we were coming into the industry, there was only Whistler Organics. Not only Whistler Organics, but they were the most kind of known craft. So we pretty much just went with it by association, and they're pretty good. They make you stick to your organic procedures and products, and obviously every one of them will have their ups and downs, but that's why we went. And then there's the ones out east that they're kind of organic. Those certain companies. I'm not a huge believer in the ones out there, but so FAVOPA and PAX is now doing it as well. So
cool. Question for you that just popped in my mind, with doing organic cannabis, are you finding that you're able to pass microbial tests, or are you having to do some kind of irradiation afterwards?
No, you can't be. This is a problem I have in the industry, because if you irradiate, you can't be certified organic through FAVOPA. I don't know about the other companies. So we are passing microbials successfully. It's a big learning curve for sure. But it's totally possible to do. My problem is some of these, I've actually seen it. Some of these certified companies are irradiating. You can tell by looking at it. I've also heard that they're doing the dunk in the H2O2 stuff, which they shouldn't. It's kind of upsetting when you hear that kind of stuff. But
and they have an organic label that's
Totally.
certified, but not.
Yeah, and then like I really think if just for the consumer, it's important for all these companies that are calling themselves organic to try and get the certification, just so it's a standardized like playing field for the consumer, so they can have something to trust in when they get it.
That's kind of weird though, if you have different certifying bodies that have different standards and you all end up with the same organic label. If some bodies are okay with you having a hydrogen peroxide dunks and others
I don't know, they're not. So this is the thing, they're doing it like shifty.
Oh, so they're adding the organic label, but they're not certified. Is that what you mean?
Or they are certified and they're doing shifty stuff.
Oh, okay.
There are companies out there doing that, which is very disappointing. But
so how can I don't know nothing about the world of organic certification. How can a company that is doing certification, can they like rescind that in some kind of way? How
completely they can, but it's just it's hard for them to be monitoring every daily action that the companies are doing.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it is the honor system, and it's just like for us at Sweetgrass, it's like it's our belief. It's it's who we are, and it's like morally that's what we have to do, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm impressed to hear that you're able to pass those microbial test limits with full organic farming, because that is a feat that is hard to accomplish. So congrats, man.
Thank you. Well, it's not me. It's the team. Like they're everything.
All right. Next question is from Curtis Campbell. What's the cost for sales amendment licenses? What did this allow the micro to actually do? I'm located in Saskatchewan. Thanks.
Cost, well, it's the cost of your product that you're having to have as your samples that you're showing Health Canada. So that could be substantial. It's 2 batches or it's got to be 2 lots. So they're finally allowing you to do smaller lots. Like at first they were wanting you to do like 10 kg lots. Like that's a lot of money for a small company. So they're changing that a little bit, but it's still like 3-4 kg lots. They want 2 of them, so that is going to be the big cost. It's not really a cost to apply. I think it's just a licensing fee. It's not very big.
Yeah. And I know Earl earlier in the chat mentioned, and I read it like once, it didn't really make sense in the flow there, but I'll mention it now. He mentioned that you can get your sales amendment very quick by just buying somebody else's really shitty weed that does pass all the tests, packaging 2 lots of that, getting that through the door, just because the sales amendment is not about your ability to cultivate, but it's about the actual packaging part of it. So I know you mentioned that for what you guys are doing, it was about the full flow, but maybe that's something to look into if you guys have been struggling with that.
But you're still going to be purchasing. Oh, you mean purchasing it for cheap?
Yeah, like just shitty weed that nobody wants. That's like whatever cents.
But then you might run into the problems of like heavy metal testing and them not passing and all that.
But there's lots of shitty weed available that does pass the test, and they have the tests to prove it. So
that could be interesting for sure.
So something to consider. That's thanks, Earl, for giving that suggestion. One thing that Abra brought up in the chat here is that cannabis is not yet part of the standardized organic sector, which is why there are differences among certifiers and growers. Once cannabis is understood as a plant and an agricultural activity, because it clearly isn't when you farm plants and cultivate flower from a plant, it will be easier to get it integrated into the National Organic Program. So we have one last question here from Cholo Burns, and apologies if I misspelled or mispronounced your name there. You mentioned sharing QAPs with other micros. How would that work for micros in the Kootenay area?
Well, I think it was just like all the new micros coming up is like find one. Like for us, we're unable just because we have 2 micros going, and there's consideration of expansion. So it's hard to share. Like it's pretty much one QA could do 2, maybe 3 micros. So I think just moving forward with the micros is just like, collaboration. That's what it is. Community collaboration, everyone working together. That's how we've always done it out here. That's why Kootenays is so special and why we're successful. And I think just everyone getting together, like say like the boys on the East Shore, they're Kootenay's finest. Shout out to them too. They're doing such a great job. So yeah, say they get their sales amendment, they have a QA, and then Kootenai Cultivar is coming down the pipe, and then there's a couple other guys, Coots Canna, and I think everyone just needs to start talking and like, okay, how are we going to do this together?
Yeah, so Cholo, find two other people who are going for a micro cultivation license that you like and feel like you can work together. That's your answer. Cool, guys. Well, I think that's it as far as the questions here go. Let's see, is there anything else in the chat? Nope. Tim, any final thoughts here before we wrap it up?
No, I just want to say thanks so much for having me. And I'm not the greatest public speaker, but thanks for putting up with me. And
you did great, man. You did great.
And yeah, I just want to just say thanks to the community and from RDCK to all the people that have helped us along the way. It's pretty special to see that how great of a community we have, like from the excavator to the builder, just it's just we have a great community. Just want to say thanks to everyone.
Awesome, man. Well, I sincerely hope that you guys get both of your sales amendments soon, so that you can actually start selling your product. Though I imagine you probably only need one, because then you could just bulk sell to the other facilities.
Well, because you can only process your 600 kg, 650, 600 kg. So we would be over if we were processing both micros. So that eventually we would need our second one.
Okay. Well, regardless, I hope you get both of those pretty quick here, and that you're able to actually reach the vision that you have in mind. That's currently being stifled by regulatory and policy hurdles that you have in place. Thank you all for being here today. Next time we have a panel discussion on processing. And the realities that processors have to deal with two processors that are focused on supporting craft cannabis cultivators getting to market. That's Shelter. We have two people joining Shelter, Kip and Abian. And we also have Ben from Joint Venture Craft Cannabis also joining us. So that'll be interesting, because a lot of people who are here and who are craft cannabis producers do use processors like that. Going against against Tim's recommendations, get your own processing license.
It's good to use them, but it's also just good to have a backup on.
Totally, and there's a lot of people have been struggling with just like, what is this price you're giving? This is bullshit. And so this will be an opportunity to kind of learn about the realities of processors, because they've also had to deal with their fair share of bullshit and challenges navigating the legal world as well. And I'm curious to learn, because I haven't really worked much with like dedicated processors who don't do anything but processing. We're starting to onboard a few clients of that nature, so getting to know them more. But our first 3 years of CertiCraft is focused entirely on the cultivation side, and that is shifting now. We do have a processing module that just launched, and you guys are the first people to use it. Anyway, thanks everybody for being here. It's been the State of Craft episode 14. It's been a pleasure to have Tim here, and see you next time. And if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. And then here we go.